Greetings, friends. I got curious about this mask situation and whether or not there was a Twilight Zone episode that dealt with this. And there, in fact, was. I was a huge fan of the Twilight Zone growing up, watching repeats. And so it was probably somewhere in the recess of my mind. You can also find clips on YouTube of this episode. But it was number 145, first aired in 1964, and it was set on Mardi Gras. And I'll mention at the end why this seems pertinent. A dying man coerces his relatives into wearing grotesque masks that reflect their true personalities. Mr. Jason Foster, a tired ancient who on this particular Mardi Gras evening will leave the earth. But before departing, he has some things to do, some services to perform, some debts to pay, and some justice to mete out. This is New Orleans, Mardi Gras time. It is also the Twilight Zone. On the night of Mardi Gras, a wealthy old man named Jason Foster is attended by his physician, Dr. Sam Thorne, who warns him that his death is imminent. He didn't heed the warning, and it had turned out surprisingly well. Cranky and candid, Jason is not cheered by the arrival of his daughter, Emily Harper, and her family, husband Wilfred, son Wilfred Jr., and daughter Paula. Wilfred, not a name you hear a whole lot these days. All four have terrible traits. Emily is a cowardly hypochondriac who whines about her perceived ailments. Wilfred, a successful businessman, is greedy, thinking of everything in monetary terms. Paula is vain, constantly checking her appearance in the mirror. And Wilfred Jr. is an oafish, sadistic bully who enjoys causing pain and suffering. Jason is not shy about his opinions and openly insults each of them. He says he has a special Mardi Gras party planned for the group that night. After dinner, the family gathers in Jason's study, where he instructs them to put on special one-of-a-kind masks, which he says are crafted by an old Cajun. Explaining that an old Mardi Gras custom involves wearing a mask that is the opposite of one's true personality, Jason sarcastically gives one to each person. A sniveling coward for Emily, a miserable miser to Wilfred, a twisted buffoon to Wilfred Jr., and a self-obsessed narcissist to Paula. He dons a skull mask, saying that it represents death as opposed to his life. The others refuse to participate at first, but Jason rightfully accuses them of only being there to claim his fortune upon his death. He informs him that this will is drawn up so that they inherit everything, but only if they wear their mask until midnight. They reluctantly concede and put on their masks. As the hours tick by, all four beg to be allowed to take off the masks, saying that they are unbearable. Their pleas are wasted on Jason, who delivers a final tirade to his family as the clock strikes midnight. "Without your masks, you're caricatures," he says as he dies. The four rejoice in their newly inherited wealth and unmask, but discover to their horror that their faces now conform to the hideous features of the masks. Jason's face, on the other hand, proves to be superficially unchanged. Dr. Thorne observes, "This must be death, no horror, no fear, nothing but peace." Mardi Gras incident, the dramatis personae, being four people who came to celebrate and in a sense let themselves go. This they did with a vengeance. They now wear the faces of all that was inside them, and they'll wear them for the rest of their lives. Said lives now to be spent in the shadow. Tonight's tale of men, the macabre and masks on the Twilight Zone. What immediately occurred to me about this is that you may be familiar with the idea that there is 1,000 years missing from the mainstream history that's presented to us in most places, such as schools. And then the additional idea that goes with that is that there is a group of what we call elite whose time could be up. And so, just as in this episode, people were wearing masks for this person who was dying. Perhaps we, in some cases, are being forced to wear these masks for the same reason, because it's like we're being forced to participate in a ritual. As I've said, I have to wear one part of the time at work. I'm not willing to go into the medical exemption thing there yet, because they don't really bother me about the fact that I don't wear it anywhere else. When I'm in the back, when I'm outside working, I either pull it down or take it off altogether, and nobody cares. So it's a very short amount of time that I have to keep it on. But you have these idiots now at Walmart who practically, assault you with their questions about whether you're going to be in this state. Well, they're saying they're mandatory, but you don't have to necessarily have them on everywhere you go. But when I have been going into Walmart over the last few days, there's a guy standing there that asks about the mask, and I have started saying that I have a medical exemption. And I should have said, I was so flustered when I had this Nazi type female Uber driver the other day. She almost put me in a panic attack, so I didn't think about the medical exemption. But because most of the Lyft drivers and Uber drivers, even though their company or their software is telling them that they're mandatory, most of them don't care. And I'm, of course, all for that. And this was the first one who had said anything to me. But she was a complete mask hole, and basically made me go into the convenience store where I had summoned her, and I had to get a mask, which I hated spending money on one. If I'd have thought about it earlier, I could have just taken one and stuck it in my pocket from work. But the thought occurred to me that this woman is the type of order follower that is could potentially get people killed if things get to a more intense state. And she was just practically hysterical about it and called me argumentative, as if she's, what am I in? Am I in sixth grade or something? So she's driving me home, and I say, okay, well, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but do you know that these things do not work, and that the World Health Organization, blah, blah, blah. And, you can just tell she's one of those people that really is not even capable of hearing what you're saying. She, probably used the word rules about 35 times in 1 minute period. And when I was trying to tell her that none of the other drivers were doing it, and how would Uber know if she's not wearing a mask? And she's like, well, you see where we are right now. And she was, I guess, trying to say because everybody can see her and that we're out in public. But Uber is in Germany. I think that's where it's based, and I don't think there's some customer service people with those places, but you're basically working for software in that situation. And so, yeah, take care, be strong, and I will perhaps talk to you soon.